Welcome to Weird and Strange Stuff, where we bring you the latest news stories of the unthinkable. My name is Jared Mansell, and today my co-host will be Mason Early.
Hello, everyone. I hope you enjoy our second episode of Weird and Strange Stuff.
Today we will be addressing extreme marshmallow roasting, a boy who nearly dies after an eel gets trapped in his throat, a man who survives a knife stuck in his head, a man who wears an I Have Drugs t-shirt is arrested, a $500,000 lottery ticket is revealed to be a misprint, fourth graders who plan to kill their teacher, a giant coconut crab that's caught in Hawaii, and the new trend of mini houses. So our first news story is extreme marshmallow roasting. In the story, two men have taken the popular camping tradition of roasting marshmallows to an extreme level by doing it inside a volcano. Yeah, a volcano. The pair descended 400 meters into the Markham Crater volcanic vent in New Zealand and proceeded to roast marshmallows over a lake of lava. They used a spare tent peg to roast some marshmallows while enjoying a beer at the edge of the lava lake where temperatures top a toasty 1,093 degrees Celsius. That's pretty warm. Wow, this is a pretty strange story.
Yeah.
Camping really is intense.
Just go on a vacation and tell all your friends that you roasted some marshmallows at a volcano,
Yeah. It's also pretty dangerous, though, because volcanoes can release toxic gases. They're pretty dangerous if you inhale those.
Yeah, you can die from that stuff.
Yeah, they're lucky. Didn't breathe in any toxic gases.
Get singed.
Yeah. Now for our Weird Laws in Wisconsin segment. A lot of these laws have to do with cheese, which is because Wisconsin's economy is mostly dairy-based, so there's a lot of law protecting dairy producers. So the first law is that it's illegal to serve apple pie in public restaurants without cheese in Wisconsin. While cheese making requires a license, Limburger cheese making requires a master cheese maker's license. This is because Limburger cheese requires a certain type of bacteria that can be harmful if not used properly. Another dairy law is that margarine may not be substituted for butter in restaurants unless it is requested by the customer. So, you're getting real butter, I guess. Some more are that it is illegal to kiss on a train and it is illegal to cut a woman's hair. And I don't know, I've seen a lot of women get haircuts, so not sure if that law is true or not.
Yeah, and last time I went to Applebee's and ordered apple pie, I don't think it came with cheese.
I didn't get any cheese with my apple pie.
Yeah.
So
I have to look into that. Sue them for some money.
Yeah. So for our next story, we have a teenage boy who nearly dies after a live eel gets trapped in his throat for over 5 hours. So this unnamed 16-year-old boy had been fishing in Bangladesh when he caught a 6-inch long Gucci bail, also known as an Indian spiny eel. He then placed the fish between his teeth, and unfortunately the eel slipped out of his mouth and down his throat. So the youngster ran back to his house where his family saw the fish inside his throat and frantically tried to pull it out, only to see it slip further down. He then began having breathing problems and was taken to a nearby hospital where doctors examined his throat but could not see the fish. They decided to carry out an emergency operation in which they cut a hole in the front of his neck and inserted a tube into his windpipe to help him breathe. 5 hours after the incident had occurred, doctors spotted the tail fin of the fish through the hole they had created in his windpipe. They were then able to pull the fish out with a pair of forceps, which by now was dead. And another weird part about this story is that this isn't the first time that the doctors have seen a case like this. This is actually the second case that came to this hospital. Now, there was a 45-year-old man who had a fish in his throat. Unfortunately, this man didn't survive. So,
yeah. Why would you put the fish in your teeth and then?
There's a lot of good places to put a fish, but between your teeth is
not
one of them. No.
Slip down, almost die.
Yeah, I'd want to avoid that if I were you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have stuck it in my mouth.
Yeah. It's got so many germs and stuff,
Yeah. Just
disease, malaria.
Poor planning on his part. Alright, so our next story is about a man who survived a fight that left a knife stuck in his skull for hours. The story involves a Brazilian man who was stabbed in the head during an argument, and despite having the knife lodged in his skull, he drove for over 3 hours to the nearest hospital. The 39-year-old man was stabbed 4 times, 3 times in the torso with one wound piercing a lung and once in the head. He was taken for treatment at a nearby local hospital before being transferred to the emergency hospital 62 miles away, with the knife handle protruding from his head all the while. It took him nearly 3 hours to arrive at the hospital initially, and the knife had been lodged in his head this entire period, but he wasn't aware of it. Officials believe that the shock of the fight and a bit of drinking may have helped him not to understand that the knife was still in his head. The knife stopped only when it got stuck on the man's lower jaw. So the knife crossed his head just behind the optical nerve. It got very close to the olfactory nerve and the gustatory nerve. And so basically in English, this means that he could have been blinded and could have lost all his sense of smell and taste. But fortunately, none of that happened, and today he's alive and healthy. The surgery to remove the knife was very delicate, since any slip could have breached an artery and led the patient to bleed out. It took the hospital and surgery team 2.5 hours to complete, and it was considered to be a complete success. Just 5 days after coming in with the knife in his head, he walked out of the hospital perfectly healthy and with no ill effects. So he was extremely lucky. Entire knife in his head.
I don't even know how you don't notice that. Guess
he did not. Yeah, he didn't notice it.
This must have been in shock, and that
drinking
good
quite a bit.
whiskey.
Yep. Crazy.
Yeah, that'll do you in.
So our next segment we have is the joke of the day. So here's the joke. A guy goes to see his doctor, and the doctor says, "Well, I'm afraid you only have 6 weeks to live." And the man says, "Oh, dang. Well, what should I do, doctor?" And the doctor tells him, "You should take a mud bath once a day for the next 6 weeks." And the guy asks, "Why? Is that supposed to help?" And the doctor says, "No, but it'll get you used to being in the ground."
That's funny.
It's not funny that he dies, but
yeah,
that's a joke. I guess it's funny, yeah. So, our next story is about a very smart criminal who wore a shirt that says that he had drugs while dealing drugs. So, a man wearing a t-shirt with the words, "I have drugs" written across the front has been arrested for possession of methamphetamine. Deputy spotted the man in a Kmart store in Hudson, Florida. He was wearing a black shirt with white letters that says, "Who needs drugs? No, seriously, I have drugs." According to an arrest report, the man attempted to hand a bag of drugs to someone behind him in line after making eye contact with the deputy. He then dropped the baggie to the floor as another deputy approached. The 50-year-old man was taken into custody after the deputies found marijuana and methamphetamine in the bag. So,
yeah, like, wow. Why would you wear a shirt that tells you?
Yeah. After he saw the police at the store, he just kept on going with the drug deal. He didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't stop or anything.
Just don't wear a shirt that says "I have drugs" when you're dealing drugs, and then make eye contact with the deputy. And
yeah, he's a pretty bold guy. You got to give him that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that doesn't keep you out of jail. So our next segment is about a new trend called mini houses. It's a social movement where people try to live in the smallest houses possible. A typical American house is 2,600 square feet, but most tiny houses are under 300 feet. These houses are small, but they're stuffed with tons of different features. Many of them have hidden storage space or beds that convert into tables. They're loaded with tons of crazy features to maximize space.
So yeah, I was just kind of wondering, Jarrett, why do people choose to live in these tiny houses?
Well, people who live in these houses say that they do so to create a more simplified lifestyle. They say that it brings them closer to the family who live in the house with them and that it eliminates a lot of material possessions in their lives. Also, people live in tiny houses for economic reasons. For most Americans, 30 to 50% of their total income goes towards buying and maintaining their house. This is equivalent to 15 years of work just to pay for your house. However, with a tiny house, these problems are almost non-existent, with most tiny houses costing less than $20,000. This basically eliminates any mortgage and could save homeowners hundreds of thousands of dollars throughout their lifetime.
So are these houses constructed just like regular houses that you and I live in?
Well, actually, most of these houses are made of materials that are 100% recycled, which makes them great for the environment. However, most of them are, constructed just like a regular house, only smaller in size. So they're structurally sound and everything. I mean, they're just smaller. And a lot of them are really nice, too. They're not just like trailer homes.
Yeah,
so.
saving the environment, one tiny house at a time.
Good stuff. And next up, we have a Weird Facts segment. So some of our weird facts for today are that Russia actually has a larger surface area than the planet Pluto does. So that's interesting because it's just a country bigger than an entire planet.
Pluto isn't a planet anymore.
Than a dwarf planet.
Yeah, been demoted.
Whatever. Oxford University is older than the Aztec Empire. There are more than stars in space than there are grains of sand on every beach in the entire world. For every human on Earth, there are 1.6 million ants. However, the humans and ants in the world weigh about the same. If you were to weigh all the humans and all the ants, it would be pretty close, actually. So, one person, equals about 1.6 million ants,
Man.
weight-wise.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Those ants, they're everywhere.
they're heavy. All right, so our next story is about a man who won $500,000 on a lottery ticket, but was later told that the ticket was a misprint. So a New Mexico man bought the scratch-off ticket at a gas station last December, and when he scratched it off, he came across not one, not two, or three or four, but 5 winning numbers, totaling over $500,000. However, the maximum prize for the ticket was $250,000. So the man thought he hit the big one, but he says that when he went back to the gas station to get his money, it didn't work. He took it back in and they told him that there was a misprint and that they don't pay off for misprints. He then contacted the New Mexico Lottery, who replied in an email saying that they did find a flaw in that particular pack of tickets and that it has been reported to their printer. They thanked him for bringing this to their attention, and they did a reconstruction of his ticket and they found that it was not a winner. They then offered him $100 in lottery tickets for compensation. So that's, not much of a compensation for $500,000.
It's really unfortunate to
Yeah.
only get a thank you for letting us know that we screwed up and $100 in lottery tickets, which you're probably not going to win anything off of.
Probably $0.
I'd just rather get the $100.
Yeah.
That's really unfortunate. I mean,
I'd be upset.
I'd be really mad. I think you won $500,000 and
Yeah, you think you won $500,000 and you can prove to somebody that you did win it. You have the piece of paper right here saying that they owe you $500,000 and they're not going to pay you. That's pretty disheartening.
that's angering, man.
Yeah. Okay, so our next story is about some 4th graders in New York who planned to kill their teacher with hand sanitizer because they thought she was, quote, mean. So the elementary school teacher was highly allergic to hand sanitizer and she banned it from the classroom. So the students planned to poison her with it. Police found little motive in this murder case beyond the fact that the student said that the teacher was mean. Not much of a motive to go off of, just because your teacher's mean, you're going to try and kill her. That's a little harsh.
Overkill, man.
Yeah. So the pupil's plot unraveled when a student who heard about it told her parents, who then referred it to the school board. The police were involved, obviously, because of attempted murder, but the police then referred the case back to the school district, which is treating the threats very seriously. The police did not issue any citations and nobody pressed charges because nothing ever happened. Nobody ever killed anybody. However, their threats are being treated very seriously and the students are being punished at the school.
But I mean, 4th graders, trying to kill someone, it's pretty scary.
Yeah. Alright, so our next segment is about some weird phobias and fears that people in this world have. So the first phobia that we have is arachidopterophobia, which is the fear of peanut butter sticking to the roof of your mouth. I guess that's scary to some people. Not sure why. The next one we have is bibliophobia, which is the fear of books. I think I might have that, actually. Another one is cacophobia, which is a fear of ugliness. Alright, so our next story that we have here is about a giant coconut crab that was caught in Hawaii. Coconut crabs are the world's largest arthropod and are categorized with spiders and insects. However, they can raid people's trash cans, they eat native birds, they eat small plants, they can eat many small animals such as cats and small dogs. They can tear up the landscape if they get to Hawaii and they grab hold of things. They can rip open a coconut and bust it open very easily with their strong jaws and claws. This is the first sighting of the invasive species in Hawaii since 1989. Coconut crabs can grow up to 3 feet wide and they can wreak havoc on the ecosystem. So this 4.5-pound crab was spotted crawling along a street in Hawaii, and a woman was passing by and she captured the creature in a box and then called the agriculture department. Nobody really knows how the creature got to Hawaii. They're hoping that it's just escaped from somebody and they're not going to be coming to Hawaii permanently, because that would be bad for their ecosystem and their economy, and it would just be all around bad. So the Department of Agriculture took possession of the crab and Yeah, nobody's sure how it got there. So that'd be kind of scary for most people because the idea of a crab that size crawling around in their backyard is not pleasant to most people.
Yeah, I'm really glad that I live in Wisconsin and we don't have
Yeah.
those kind of creatures around here, like big spiders and scorpions and crabs. Man, 4.5 pound crab, I mean, that's just a honker.
It's 3 feet wide.
Bigger than a small dog.
Yeah. All right. So that concludes our second episode of Weird and Strange Stuff.
We hope to see you back next week for some more interesting stories.
This episode of Weird and Strange Stuff was brought to you by the Huffington Post and PremiumBeat.com. That's all, folks.